What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I am talking about the latest offering from Leprous, Melodies of Atonement. This also came out on August 30th, this time on Inside Out Music, and yeah, if I recall, I think this is the band's 7th album. But yeah, this is a Norwegian progressive metal / rock band, and of course, all the members, well, most of the members, are most known for being the backing band to Ishan whenever he's doing live shows for his solo project. These are the guys that back him up on stage. And of course, this band's been around since 2001. Now, I've heard this band all over the place when it comes to like discussions about prog bands, but I've never really checked them out until listening to this album, and now I can officially say, shame on me for not checking out Leprous sooner, because I will go ahead and say this is some really solid progressive metal / progressive rock. Kicking things off with Silently Walking Alone, like one of the big binding things about this entire album is the keyboard work. Like, the keyboards range from, like, you know, mellotrons to even sounding like organs at times, but also sounding like 80s synths at certain points in time. But yeah, in this song here, keyboards really drive everything, but you get this, like, really cool drum build-up. And really, throughout all of this album, when it comes down to tempo, it's very doomy, like, very doom-laden, almost kind of like modern Catatonia, where you don't really get any up-tempo sections. It mostly stays slow, like doom metal a little bit. It's that kind of tempo going on. But what I will say is, across the board, not only with it being like doomy in terms of the tempo, but even in some of the moods, kind of gives it a bit more of a doomy vibe with that prog. But I gotta say, Einar's vocals, holy hell, I was not expecting to hear some of the best prog vocals I have heard in a long time. And moving on to the track Atonement, title track, it starts off rather suspenseful, and then Einar's vocals kind of start off a little bit on the low side, kind of remind me a little bit of Michael Åkerfeldt from Opeth a little bit, not only on this track, but later on whenever it's low vocals on Starlight, kind of made me think of Michael whenever he's doing like low, clean vocals. But the keyboards on this track, on the title track, kind of builds up a bit of an uplifting mood, but it's still kind of somber sounding. But it is very keyboard driven, but with like little guitar progressions, like a big power chord to add on top of the keyboards. But I gotta say, this was one of quite a few songs where Einar's just absolutely flying in his vocal range, like doing this low singing and then doing like awesome high notes. Kind of remind me a little bit of like Daniel Tompkins from Tesseract a little bit. And yeah, it's just some powerful high range vocals going on. My Spectre, I love the soundscapes and the atmosphere on here. It definitely harkens back more towards 70s prog, kind of like King Crimson and Yes a little bit, and the vocals get a little more sullen. It's very melodic when it comes down to the guitar work, but you do get like a really cool big riff before things just get a little more wild once again with the vocals. Still remains on the doomy side of the spectrum, and of course when the synths show up, they're quite tasteful. I Hear the Sirens, this one gets a little darker for me. Like, you get more of those sullen vocals, but you do have an awesome riff that pops up on here that definitely adds a lot of darkness to it. And it was really from this track onward, for the most part, it gets a little more dark, a little more brooding, a little murkier sounding, and the riff that shows up on I Hear the Sirens definitely carries that dark weight behind it. And then Like a Sunken Ship, which I will flat out say was probably the heaviest song on the entire album. You do get like a really cool kind of jazzy bass line at the beginning, and then it turns rather whimsical, but then it gets aggressive and flat out riffy, and even some big screaming vocals that just are over the top but really cool. It was like, damn, this song really got aggressive and unwieldy in a good way. Then the song Limbo. Not the limbo where you go under a pole for no reason, but limbo as in you're stuck in limbo in life or what have you. Dark keyboards, it's very groove laden, and even the guitar work that comes up, very, very twangy, I will say. And then there's more pronounced riffs that come up as well, and even, oh yeah, I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. Yes, we get a cowbell on here, which anytime I hear a cowbell in metal, a thumbs up immediately. But it is a very hooky track, and it's very tense. Like, there's a lot of tension between hooks and groove on here, yet it's still very progressive. Faceless, which I think is one of the more interesting tracks on the album, where, wow, my voice decided to die on me. You get the upright bass playing, and it's like, ooh, am I hearing like something out of the blues? And then piano, and that's pretty much most of that for the beginning, and then the guitars gradually entered the mix and then just punches you in the face with a big riff, but it's very groovy and bouncy, yet it's pretty heavy. This was another one of the heavier tracks on the album, and for the first time, a lead, and it's more atmospheric rather than like flashy or anything, and even a big choir. And this was the longest track of the album at almost 7 minutes. But man, they packed so much into that song. Starlight, this one definitely goes for more of the melodic side of things, clean guitars, and we're back to the more Michael Ockerfeld-esque low vocals, but there's even like a quick little dive bomb lead. And the song itself kind of reminds me of like more recent Opeth, kind of like Sorceress and Encauda Venenum, kind of that vibe a little bit. But there's also another like really cool like feeling guitar solo, and it ends on the blues. Self-Satisfied Lullaby, I really like this one because you do have a more rocking end, but for the most part it's so much emphasis on atmosphere and the big vocal harmonies. Honestly, I got reminded a lot of Queen when it came to the vocal harmonies on this track. It was like, am I hearing Bohemian Rhapsody again? Kind of in that way, but it's very sullen. There's even some like tribal beats and groove going on, which definitely adds more diversity to the songwriting. But then you get to the closing track, Unfree My Soul, and I love the classical play on the, I think it's the acoustic and the piano, and it builds up really nicely, and once again, Einar's vocals are really tuneful before you get these big riff progressions, and stays pretty doomy for the most part. And of course, when it comes down to the production, I think the production on here is absolutely flawless. The mix is great, and even whenever during some songs where you actually hear the natural drums before whenever like a big progression hits or it gets heavy, the drums get bigger. So I love how the producers were able to like really balance everything and like have moments where it'll sound huge, but other times it'll sound more natural, and other times it sounds very quiet, and it makes you pay attention to what is going on musically. And of course, like the big thing for me that stood out was Einar's vocals. Like, he has an insane range to his voice, and it's like not cheesy or anything, not like Spencer Sotelo, but yeah, definitely kind of in line with a vocalist like Daniel Tompkins and Tim Charles from Ne Obliviscaris, kind of that vocal style. But yeah, overall, the only complaint I could really have about this album, I do wish there was more like notable riffs, like especially in the first half of the album, like especially on the title track, it's just these like big power chord progressions rather than a proper riff. Like, I would have loved to have heard more pronounced riffs rather than just big chord progressions. But overall, I thought this was a really, really good album. I am going to give this a 4 out of 5. For prog, this is one of the better albums I've heard from prog this year, and it's, I would say, kind of close to, it's like 55% progressive rock to 45% progressive metal, but still, it's a great album. For my first experience checking out Leprous, I really enjoyed it. Now, I gotta go back and listen to the older stuff. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you for watching. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.
Thank you for your patronage.